Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Sarah Seidelman, and welcome to the Hummingbird series where I interview people that I think you will want to know. And I want you to meet Jane Asher. Jane, please say hello.
Well, hello.
Jane has just published this book, The Next Room, which is an amazing story of losing her beloved mom and then realizing that maybe their relationship could continue, and which is this is what The Next Room is referring to, this room after this world and this life. And so I'm super excited to have you come on to just talk about we've had so much loss in this last 2 years that we're coming up on here. So I know that a lot of people have a lot of grief and can relate to losing a loved one. But I'm so curious, can you tell us a little bit about this story and just give us some background so we understand, and then let's dive into some of the messages that your mom began to share with you.
Okay. The book was sort of in progress for a long time. Mom's been gone for 11 years, and I wanted to do this book about our relationship. And it's morphed and changed over the years because I didn't realize at the time that I was going to have a co-author. I just thought that I was going to write this book about this amazing relationship with this woman who was just stunningly so powerful and so beautiful and so uplifting, and just really, she just saw me, from a little kid all the way to being 49 years of age. And so when she left, I was devastated. And so I've been writing my whole life, and I was parking things in journals, and I just kept writing and writing. So after she left, I thought, okay, I'm going to write this book. And initially it was going to be kind of like, where it was going to be more of a fictional story where you didn't know she was in the next room. And then I would peel back take the facade away, and ta-da, here the whole time she's been in the next room. And it just didn't gain any steam. And I was just feeling like I was pushing it, that it really wasn't what the book was supposed to be. And then miraculously, my sister Lynn, who is in the next room, gave me this message about asking my friend Pam, who's a psychic medium, to connect with Mom and co-write the book with me. So it was just like, it was just one of those amazing things that sort of morphed into realizing that she isn't gone. She's just right here. I just cannot see her. And once she readily agreed to be my co-author, it was sort of like, it just expanded to the point of where I knew it had to be done, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it, but the how didn't matter. It was just that driving, magical, beautiful force of having that message received, that it needed to come out one way or another. It was going to come out, and come out it did. And here I am.
Yes. And you started communicating with your mom through the psychic medium, and that's how it kind of began, because you are not a trained psychic medium.
No,
you were like, I don't know how to do this. No. And then, tell us about what happened that made it switch so that you began to be the one receiving the messages from your mom, or receiving the writing instructions.
Right. That's a great question. Boy, right after my mother passed, my dad was just so despondent. They were boyfriend and girlfriend for 62 years. And, as he discovered when my mother left, she took his heart with her, and so that's why he was feeling so empty. So he came out to stay with us in San Diego, and he was here for a month, and it was right after she had passed. It was in February. She passed in October. So that following February, he came out for a whole month, and he came out of his bedroom one morning after the kids were off to school. And he's like, Jane, I have to talk to your friend. And I'm like, Dad, you're going to have to be more specific. I have a lot of friends. And he goes, the one that does seances and stuff. And I started laughing. I'm like, oh, you mean my friend Pam? So I have this friend who's from Santa Barbara, who's a renowned psychic medium. And I said, okay, she's expensive, but I'll see if she'll do a favor and talk to you. But I don't know what it is that you think she's going to give you. Because at the time, Pam to me was always psychic. And I didn't understand that she had this medium side of her business where she was communicating with souls that had gone before, because she doesn't really promote that, because she says that brings a lot of interesting people to her and she doesn't want to really promote that. So he was insistent. I set up a phone call. I set him up with my friend, and they were on the phone for quite some time. And when I finally came out, I could see he had hung up the phone. You know, tears are streaming down his little sun-kissed cheeks. And I'm like, oh, Jane, what'd you do? What'd you do? I'm like, Dad, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, 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 it's okay. She was here. And I'm like, who, what are you talking about? Who was here? You know, he's alone in my backyard. And he's like, your mother was here. Come on, let's go listen. So that started the whole thing where I discovered the depth and expansiveness of my friend Pam's gift. I realized that my mother really was here. I realized that she had a whole bunch of things to say. She recorded it for my dad. So yearly, I would give him a gift to speak to Mom. He called it Calling Mom. So that's kind of, my dad really got the whole party started. You know, I was not there at all emotionally or even spiritually to think that I could connect with her like that. And so he got it going. So every year I've got all of his tapes that he would talk to my mom, and really very personal things were coming through that only my mom and dad shared, or that my immediate family knew. And so that's how it got going. And then once the evolution kept happening, where I realized that I could talk to Pam and speak to my mother, I brought Pam in on it. I said, would you be willing to help translate messages from my mother? And she said, absolutely. I love your mom. So I started having sessions with Pam, and she would tape everything. And then I would be in here, you know, translating. It was crazy because I would have to stop and listen and, you know, record. So I'm translating everything. And I'm thinking the book is done because it's part 1, part 2, part 3 is me, Mom, and Pam. And I have one last session with Pam. And I said, I don't want to ask Mom any more questions. I have plenty for the book. You've given me a lot to write about. But I would like to ask her if she's happy with the direction. You know, I have part 1 is me growing up. Part 2 is me meeting Pam. Part 3 is me, Mom, and Pam. And Pam goes, okay, Betty. Okay, I'll tell her. She said, she really likes the direction of the book. She loves part 1, part 2, part 3. However, there's going to be a prologue, an epilogue, and a part 4. And I'm like, what? What part 4? What? Okay, I'll tell her. Okay. She wants to reiterate to you, you do not need me to hear these messages, that you indeed have been communicating with her for 10 years now, and that she wants, if you will allow it, she will give you these messages. She will come directly to you. So here I am tripping out, thinking there's no way. I'm not psychic. I'm not a medium. Maybe I have intuition like the next gal, but once I got there and I went through a series of meditative kind of my little thing that I do, and I started opening up, the messages literally were coming in at such a ferocious pace. And I'm not a great typist, but I couldn't stop. I was in here and it was like this daily download. And a lot of times I'd be in here sobbing, and my husband would open the studio door and just like put a piece of dark chocolate on the desk and close the door, because he would see I'm like, I'm crying and I'm crying. So that's kind of how it all happened. And then I kept thinking, what am I doing? People are going to think I'm crazy.
Yeah,
You know?
let's talk about that. Like
Yeah.
the fear. Okay, I'm channeling my mother from beyond the grave. Like, and now what will people think of me? Yeah, how did you wrestle with that? How did you come to terms with that?
You know, I talked to my mom about it. I have this chapter called Doubting Jane. And I just said to her, I said, this is nuts. You know, how is this going to be received? And she basically just said, doubt is a huge waste of your time.
Mm.
How can you possibly doubt that this is me? It is me. I'm here. I'm here with you now. I've never left you. I'm here. I'm accessible. There's legions of souls that want these beautiful messages to come through. And you just happen to be one of those people that are willing to step out of your courage closet, so to speak, and to say, okay, it's here I am, you know, I'm no longer this rock and roll DJ. I'm spiritually strong woman who speaks to not just her mom, but many, many souls now that have gone before me. And I just had to get over it, Sarah. She just said,
Yeah.
get out of your own way, get out of your head, stop being so human. She kept saying to me,
Right. Because
expand.
it's the
Right.
ego that's terrified that we're going to
Oh
look
yeah.
bad or
Oh
that
yeah.
we're
What are
gonna,
people going to think? Yeah. Well, oh, I'm Jane Asher, the rock and roll DJ who was on stage with Billy Idol and on Willie Nelson's bus and all of those stories, and worried about what would people think. And you know what? I'm really good. Like I'm so happy that I took this step forward, because all of that is just, it is ego. Like I have to daily say to myself, all right, stop it. That is your ego. That is not why you're here. That's not your essence. That's not your spiritual soul. That's not what you came to deliver. You didn't come to deliver that ego that I am someone. So it's been really a daily practice.
can you share for, because I know there may be people that are interested in doing channeled writing or, receiving a message from a loved one, perhaps. I mean, it's like, gosh, it makes me want everyone to be able to have this kind of access, because there's so many of us who just, if we could just talk one more time to like, say the things that we needed to say or that kind of thing, because oftentimes people die unexpectedly or in circumstances, especially in COVID, where we didn't get to hold their hand and say everything we wanted to say. Like, what would you say to that person? Like, how would you suggest they approach it, or what approach worked for you?
Another great question. Boy, I think the number one thing is to ask. It's so vitally important that we just open up and ask for that guidance, the messages, um, whatever it is. And for me, particularly, you know, I I go for a walk. I do what I call a mindful smell of the neighborhood with my puppy. And as I do it, um, I'm just gone. I don't know where I am. I'm looking at trees and thanking for everything in my life and the sunshine and you name it. And then when I come home, I'm in the right headspace, because I've communed with God and nature. And then I come in and I come in this small space here, and I have all the pictures of everyone that's gone before me all over. It is the next room and the next room. And I light a candle and I literally put my hands up and I say this beautiful prayer and I welcome all of it to come through. And when I do, I get what my pastor used to refer to as the Holy Spirit tingle. You can call it whatever, but that little, or where you just
Yeah.
get goosies all over, and it's such an awesome feeling. And when that happens, which I really would get to that space. When that happens, I know that I'm ready. I'm in a receiving mode to bring in the right message, which is all about love, and not about that human part of our ego and the attachment to things. So that was my process. But I would just say, quite simply, ask for it, just
Yeah.
ask for it, because there's a myriad of ways for those souls that are in the next room to connect with us. We just have to be open and willing to believe and receive. So ask, believe, receive. And it's as simple. It's so simple. And a lot of times I think our deep grief keeps us from seeing it or experiencing it, because we're so despondent and we're so sad and we're so human and we're weighed down with all this heavy grief that don't see what's right in front of us. We
Yeah, we
don't
can't
realize.
vibrate high enough or light enough, high enough to
Yes, bringing
elevate.
that vibration up, because from what I've been told, they have to bring their vibration down and get more dense, and
Mhm.
we need to bring our vibration up and get more light so that we can kind of meet somewhere in the middle there,
Yeah.
and receive it.
So the neat thing about this book too is that you kind of get to go through the story. And I was rereading the book this morning, the beginning when when Jane's mom is when she dies, and kind of the process right before that. And it was just so moving and so well written, and just like brings you right there. You just feel like you're part of the family and everything that's happening. And we all will experience these terrible losses. And but what's really amazing is then once you connect with the medium, and then once you start receiving messages from your mom, we enter this whole section of the book where your mom is like dropping wisdom like nobody's beeswax. And it's so great, and it's so profound, and it's so it just comes from this place of love. And I remember thinking, this is like a blueprint for awakening. I mean, there's so much that so I just wanted to ask, like, is there, if you want to share, are there 2 or 3 things you want to share from that? Like, or just to give us a taste of the kind of wisdom your mom, if you guys follow Jane, you'll see she shares her mom's quotes too on her Instagram and Facebook. And they're just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Um, First, I'd like to say that it is 100% her. Um, it caught me by surprise. I would reread maybe, a week later, things that had come through, and I would say to my husband, this isn't me. These aren't my thoughts. I'm not that elevated at all. I spin out of control on a regular basis and watch myself very um, stupidly say and do silly things. But I guess,
Testify.
uh,
Conclusion.
yeah, I guess what I would say is I love, love, love that the resounding message that I kept receiving from her in almost every way was, there is no shame, there is no blame, there is no burning in hell, that we return to such a grand source of love, that it is so expansive that we can't even possibly find the human words to describe it. So she kept saying to me, don't worry about the message or how you're writing it, because there's no possible way for you to even begin to capture the expansiveness of what this is. Just speak to the humans, use your words, and just know that it is all love, that we all return to this. And she said, more than seeing it, or it's like we plug back in and then we go, oh, wow, I forgot how beautiful this is. And so I just love that message from her, that it is just so beautiful and so loving. And when we get weighed down with paying our bills, or maybe our children do something that's less than cool, or our husband says something and you want to,
Less
what,
than cool also.
yes, exactly. And then if you can step away from it and just realize, okay, that's because we're these spiritual beings, but we're in this weighted down situation, and we're human, and move on. Like she keeps saying, like, forgiveness is actually forgiving to you. It isn't about asking for forgiveness, it's forgiving. You forgive. It's really lovely.
Yeah, there were so many beautiful messages, and it really resonated with me so much. I had in my shamanic training, I had one sort of near death experience where I got to be in a little tiny baby spoonful flavor taste of that immense love. And I just realized, wow, like everything is perfect and I can't screw it up. And it was so amazing. And it's hard to remember those things, but we need to be reminded. And so
Yeah.
I'm so glad that that you had the courage to bring this book through and the courage to share it with others, because a lot of people maybe get messages like this and they stuff them in a diary and throw it in an underwear drawer and don't think about it.
Yeah.
But that you had the wherewithal to take it all the way and make this beautiful book, you guys. So The Next Room by Jane Asher, you should definitely pick this up. And yeah, like, why not receive your own message from someone that you could share with, maybe with family. If you're not wanting to write a book, maybe it's something you could share, with your loved ones. What I was going to ask you one other thing. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. This was my question. So when my mom was dying, one of the things she said to me was like, I hope for you that you find another mother, that when I'm gone, because, and I know you didn't have that opportunity to have that kind of conversation because your mom was like recovering and coming home from the hospital. But have you found, I know that talking with your mom is probably very comforting, but have you found any way around that grief or understanding, or someone that you speak to that brings you that something that your mom also gave you? I'm not phrasing this very clearly, but
No, somebody that's here with me
yes.
now.
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate. I have just a beautiful 85-year-old vibrant mother-in-law.
Mhm.
And my mom loved Frances. I mean, our daughter's name is Betty Francis. And so Frances has been this extraordinary second mom. And she has embraced me, and she's believed in me. She listens to my podcast before she goes to bed every night. She calls me with questions like, oh my gosh, you had Sue Frederick on and I loved her message, or who is that guy? She discusses my podcast. She not only read the book in its entirety, but now she is buying them for everybody she knows. So she's old school. So she doesn't want to do it through the website. So she'll send me a check for $100. And I'm like, okay, all right, Frances, who are these going out to? And then I have to get their addresses. And then I write them a little note, like, my mother-in-law wanted you to have this. So it's great. Her support has been just astonishing. And we weren't always that close. I mean, she's Sicilian. And I don't know if you know anything about Sicilian women, but they're pretty protective of their brood. And, perhaps I didn't measure up to marrying her son at the very beginning, who knows? But she and I did have a couple things where we were like this. And now, seriously, I'm so fortunate. And my mom told me, when she was alive, she was like, that woman is a good woman. You need to respect and love her. And so it is good. So thanks for asking. And that gives me a chance to give Frances a little love, or I like to call her Franny. She's a doll.
So tell us, I know you're going to tell us what you have coming up so people can listen to your podcast. Tell us about where to find the podcast. And also, I know you're part of the Beautiful Dying Expo, which is such a so tell us a little bit about that so people can, listen and get involved.
Well, the Beautiful Dying Expo, it's phenomenal. We are in our third year. It is all virtual. It is absolutely free. Just go to beautifuldyingexpo.com. You do have to register because they're trying to kind of get a handle on how many people are there. There are different tracks. They're going to do grief and bereavement. They will do mysticism. There's going to be a whole thing on getting your affairs in order, and free advice about that. It's really, really powerful. We're working with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Hospice, where we've got Patch Adams, the one that the movie was done about. He's a keynote speaker. I'm going to be broadcasting The Next Room, my podcast, live for 3 days. And you are actually going to be joining me in one of those sessions, which is fabulous, so that we can talk all about this. Did you see my bookmark? It's a $2 bill. Isn't that hilarious?
I like that.
Talk about books, girlfriend. This is another level, but we'll get there during my show. But so it's done by Michelle Little, who wanted to basically strip down any of the fear that comes with death. And people really, it's not death necessarily, it's the fear of maybe dying and how they're going to die, how and when. And the Beautiful Dying Expo really adds a lot of beauty to every aspect of the death community. So please, please join us. It's going to be awesome. It's just virtual. You can sit at home and, go down the hall and pop in, and we're going to be giving away books, and you'll just gain a lot of fun connections and knowledge through that. So that is coming up. I'm going to be on Lex and Terry, which is hilarious. They're an FM radio show that is syndicated across the United States, and they're very TNA and kind of naughty. They have a big male audience, but miraculously, I got an email from them that said, everything we do is about some kind of lame joke, but they have collectively decided to attack one serious issue that people really need to talk about. And they want me to be their first guest to do this new feature, right? And I'm like, I'm so honored. I'm so honored. And I know that they'll be joking around a little bit too, but it's okay. I can handle anything they throw at me. So, so that's upcoming.
Betty,
what's that?
I was going to say, and Betty will be with you in case,
I asked her before I go live. I mean, before I came on your show today, I'm like, okay, let's go team, help me to communicate concisely and to put these messages forth with a lot of integrity. It's so important. That was the number one thing in my intention, was that I really, really stay steeped in deep integrity. Like, people say, oh, I'll write you a review on Amazon. And I'll say, did you read the book? And if they say, well, no, but I'll just write a review. And I'm like, no. Please do not write me a review until you have read and like it. And then if you don't, be honest. I mean, it's okay. If you don't like it, give me a review and tell me why. So that's important. So other than that, I've got, let's see, I'm speaking at the IANS Foundation in Santa Barbara in January, which is the Near Death Association organization. It's an international organization. I'm speaking to the Santa Barbara chapter. And while I'm up there, I'm going to be going around to the local TV station, and K-Tide, my old rock and roll radio station, is going to have me on the morning show. So just all kinds of fun stuff. A lot of things are happening, and I'm just allowing it. I'm like, all right, let's go. I don't feel like I have to, I'm not pushing a boulder uphill. It's just all incoming right now. And let's go.
For those people out there that maybe are wanting to develop their gifts, their intuitive gifts, their psychic gifts, like, what piece of advice do you have to offer them? Just to leave on that note, like, is there something you or Betty would want to share with them?
Just be open. Just be open. Ask, meditate, and if you're not comfortable with meditating, I mean, whatever you want to call it, get in a prayerful state where you're just, opening up and asking for the guidance from all of that. Think about all the wisdom that is in the next room. And I'm not just referring to those that What about, like, I often talk to authors that have gone before me, and Mother Teresa, I dig her, I loved her whole thing, have a rally for peace and I'll show up, instead of an anti-war rally, right? So I talk to really wise, cool souls that I have never met in earthly form, that I think will help benefit and move me forward. So I would just say, write your little list of who's in the next room that you admire, that you love, and have a chat with them. They're there, and they really do want to feed us with their knowledge, because now they have an extended, expansive, much bigger, connection. They can see it now. They're like, oh, and then they want that to come down here, because the more elevated we can get down here, the more we can move this forward, this life experience forward. And I think that's what we're here to do, is just spread love and joy everywhere as much as humanly possible.
Yes, and receive it. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Jane,
Thank
for
you.
being here. You guys, The Next Room by Jane Asher. Check the book out, get your copy, and yeah. Thank you so much. Mwah. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you next
Sarah.
time.